This is Crying and Dying episode 4. Welcome back for another episode.
'Cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives. Of our lives. Yeah. These are the best days.
Oh my gosh, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning into our past couple episodes, especially our walk down Millennial Lane. Thank you guys so much for those of you who have tuned in and played along. If you haven't listened yet, and maybe this is your first episode, just go back 2 episodes and listen to our walk down our nostalgic 90s vibes, and you can play along with our nostalgia game. Just follow us on Instagram at Crying and Dying, and you'll find the slides in our highlights. I would also like to give a shout out to my girl Lilah Higgins. She is the one that designed our amazing cover art. We gave her the funnest idea of a Mean Girls aesthetic with our own Crying and Dying touch, and oh my goodness, she whipped it together. She's incredible. Please check her out. You can follow her on Instagram at Lilah Higgins. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Hey, I'm here too. It's Adam. I haven't met Lilah, but hey, and our podcast art is amazing, and we really are really happy with it. So thank you.
Woo!
So Lizzie, question of the week. What had you crying and dying this week?
Oh my goodness. I didn't have a ton of like dying laugh-worthy things this last week that were worth like sharing on the podcast, but I would say I did watch a little bit of a tearjerker. It's on Netflix. It's called Firefly Lane. Adam told me to check it out. Yeah.
The best.
Adam told me to check it out. And you said that you had read the book and watched the show. And what were like, can you maybe like jog everyone's memory of like maybe why did you recommend it to me? That would be a good.
Okay. I don't have like great reasons, but it is such a good story, but it's weird at the same time. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it's basically a story of 2 girls that you see their lives progress over the years from like the teenage years, and then it kind of the first season ends in the early 2000s, and basically their trials and tribulations, we'll say. It's based on a book called Firefly Lane that's been out for a really long time. It is so good. So I don't know. When you say like, who played this, blah, 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 I don't know.
I'm looking that up right now because I have something I had a thought.
Katherine Heigl.
Heigl, yeah.
Katherine Heigl plays one of the main characters. And the other person, I don't know her as well. I follow her on Instagram.
Sarah Chalke? Do we pronounce it just Chalk or Chalk?
I'm not sure,
I'll
but
say Chalk.
That's who it is. She's really good. They're both very different, I think, in real life and on screen. And I think that's what makes the movie or its TV show so good. Yeah. And they leave you at the end with the biggest cliffhanger.
Ooh.
So, well, at the end of the TV show or Netflix show.
Yeah.
The book is definitely worth reading. And I'm not one to be like, oh, the book is always better. But this book was really, really good. And it's really long. And by read the book, I listened to the audiobook on Audible. It has a really good narrator in it as well. And that's really important when you listen to audiobooks. So I definitely think if you haven't seen the show or read the book, depending on your style, it's definitely worth checking out.
When I first saw, like, I remember it's like a little while ago, I watched the trailer for Firefly Lane. Okay, guys, please don't judge me. I am very good with names and faces. And if anybody, I'm trying to think of like some recent stuff. Maybe the most recent thing I can think of for this actress, she was on the show Grace and Frankie, which I really loved. We should talk about that sometime. Okay, so the gal that plays one of the characters, her name is Sarah Chalke.
She's on that?
No. So I watched this and I kept thinking she looks really familiar. She looks like somebody, one of the actresses from Grace and Frankie, but like she looks like she had a lot of work done. And I was confusing. Okay, guys, don't judge me, please. I was confusing her for June Diane Raphael. She's on Grace and Frankie. She plays Brianna. And I was confusing her. I was like, why is her voice different? Why doesn't she have her like regular, like salty attitude? Why does her face was different, her voice was different. I was like, this can't be her. But like based on like the trailer and like some of the pictures that they've used for like advertising the show, I thought all along it was June Diane Raphael. It's not. And so that I'm liking the show, in case anybody's wondering. I'm not done yet, but like really, I'm enjoying it. There's some hard parts based on past traumas in my life. They're kind of hard to like watch, but I'm okay with that. Like I'm in a space in my life right now where I'm okay with that kind of content.
I'm sorry, I hadn't even thought of that part.
No, that's okay. And I also faced a very tough decision at the bookstore last weekend. I thought Adam told me the book was really good, so I'm holding the book, Firefly Lane. But there's this other book I've been meaning to read for like 2 summers now. I'm sure all of you have already read it, Where the Crawdads Sing. So I made a tough decision, and I knew I was going to watch the show anyway, but I've been waiting to read this book. So I bought the book, Where the Crawdads Sing. I'll give you a review later. I'm only like 10 pages in. I'll read Firefly Lane someday, but I figured since I'm watching the show already, yeah. So like at the bookstore, I was like, gosh dang it, like which one do I choose? And I've been wanting to read Where the Crawdads Sing a lot longer. So that was my choice. That's what had me crying and dying last week.
Oh, literally that TV show. I'm calling it a TV show, and I'm just going to keep doing that.
Call it a series.
Okay. I'm going to mess it up no matter what I say.
Fine.
It isn't a comedy, but there's funny moments in it.
Very relatable to some, like if you have a very close friend in your life. Then,
who might be like very different from you.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever had a friend that was like you were the chill one and kind of the responsible one, and maybe the other friend was the partier or didn't always make the best decisions. I think relatable in that way.
Yeah.
You will definitely probably cry at one point or another in the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Or the book. Mm-hmm. And the book and the show, hate to say this, are very, very different.
Oh, that's how it usually is, though, isn't it?
And it's okay. At first I was mad, but then I'm like, well, I liked this Netflix series. So I don't know. It's just kind of like the same but different. But there's like some major things that happen in the book that don't happen in the Netflix show.
Ooh.
So we can talk about that another day. Not on the podcast because I don't want to give spoilers away.
Yeah, I value the like not spoiling things for people. That's important. Adam, what had you crying and dying this week?
Oh, I got to do a big sigh before I do this.
We're here for you. This is a safe space.
Thank you. My name's Adam, and I hate college. I really, really, really do not enjoy traditional schooling. I am not, well, okay, I shouldn't say I'm not good at it because it's not, I think, designed for everybody. And that's why a lot of people struggle. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways people learn. And especially when you become an adult, your learning styles change. So,
100%.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm taking 2 summer classes this summer and they're not fun. So
what courses are they?
Oh, let me tell you.
Let's unpack this.
So I'm working on a computer science-ish 2-year degree at a community college. So one of the classes is about databases, and I like that one because it's relatable in my work and basically my work. I get it.
Yay.
I use this stuff, but it's still not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll leave that. I'm not as worried about that class. This other class, so I had 6 classes, including these 2. So 6 total before I'm graduated, hopefully. And I had to take there's like a block of like gen ed, and it's just like pick one in these 8 billion different classes. I literally went through like all of them. I'm like, okay, which one's going to be the easiest? So I thought that this class I'm going to say was going to be the easiest. And it's not hard, but this so much work and it's so unnecessary. I am taking a business math class.
That sucks. Oh my gosh.
It's awful.
Ew.
Awful, awful, awful. I can't even describe how awful it is. What makes it awful in my head is that it uses a quote unquote smart book.
No, no, no.
Have you heard of a smart book?
Maybe.
It's not great. Basically, it's an ebook and you
It's
do
interactive.
the homework. Yeah, you do the homework and all that stuff in it. It's $100 on top of
oh my gosh.
it's
On
just
top of
annoying.
the
It's
class?
yeah,
Like,
it's ridiculous. I don't like it. And
Mm.
the instructor, I don't know what he's doing with his life, but it's just a lot of busy work and it reminds me of high school and I wish I took something else. So,
I have so many thoughts.
and if you've ever taken a summer class, the summer terms at most schools are, and not all of them, but most schools, they're shorter.
Mhm.
So you're cramming in everything from a normal semester into less weeks. So you have to do everything faster. But I don't even know why I did this. I probably wasn't paying attention when I enrolled.
Mm.
I'm doing an 8-week class, 2 8-week classes.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the funny part of all of this is, so on Friday, I believe, I got an email from the school and hold on, I want to bring it up and read it to you. It's so bizarre and
gosh.
random.
While you bring it up, I would like to say I math is not my place to shine. It's not my vibe. I am very not good at math. The only class I ever failed in college was an online, it was like a hybrid. It was a night class with an online component. It was math. It wasn't even, it was like the class, because I took a lot of like remedial math in college before I could even take college algebra. This was a remedial math course. I
Like,
failed
Lizzie,
it.
what's 1 + 1?
Don't get
kind
me
of class.
started. Don't
It's
get me
okay.
started. The guy, I think he was like a single dad, and this was like being an adjunct professor at night was like his like second job. And I felt he was nice, but also didn't care. And also when it comes to these classes, oh my gosh, I feel like some professors like just throw a lot of busy work at you because they like either it's the professor or the college, like they think they're providing you with more value because you're paying for this. But I think there's a lot more value in just being succinct and providing you exactly what you need because you're their customer. You're paying them to be
They don't look at it that way.
right. Some professors actually like would say like, "Hey guys, you're paying me. I want to make sure that like I like teach you what you need to know but still make the college happy." Which I always appreciated that like they recognized like not giving busy work just for the sake of like providing perceived value that maybe wasn't even there. Like I think there's more value in being succinct and giving people what they need and nothing that they don't. No fluff.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, back to your
Yeah.
email.
So I think this is a good time for us to take a quick break, and then I'm going to leave them with a cliffhanger about this
Ooh.
super bizarre email the school sent out to all of the students and the faculty, and it was on the news.
Oh my gosh. Perfect cliffhanger.
Yes, we will be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Right before this, we were talking about the bizarre email that I got from basically the IT department of the school. Let me read this to you. To all students, faculty, and staff, the insert school name internet will be offline today, and our insert school name website is offline as well. We will update you of any changes of the status of either. So,
That was email worthy?
So what had happened was that they haven't said this. So this is all alleged. Basically, from my understanding of everything I've read, the school's internet got hacked. Like the network, and I don't even know everything.
Oh my gosh. That's really bad.
And it's still offline today. If I try and go to the
How many days has this been?
Since Friday morning.
Oh my.
So I guess their solution is like, oh no, we're just going to take everything down.
And you're taking an online class.
Yeah. So both of the instructors that I have been like, we're going to extend the due dates, blah, de blah. I'm like, okay, that's not the problem. For me, I tend to do the work on the weekends because my day job keeps me very busy. So I'm
like most adults.
Thank you. And this one person is like, we're going to extend the things from this date till Wednesday. So from like things that would have been due on Sunday are now due on Wednesday. I'm like, great. I'm SOL.
So helpful.
And this is the math class that I'm.
Oh my gosh. That sucks.
It was on the news, and the news had a little more information
than what they gave students. That's sad.
That's all they said. It's like, and they haven't sent any updates all weekend. From the emails that the instructors have sent, it sounds like they don't know what's going on. But if the internet's down, how are you emailing us? But I'm not going to ask questions.
That's when you get an email from your professor that says sent from iPhone. One word answers.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Since I'm in school, we thought it would be fun to share our college experiences with each other. So I don't even know if you know all of this. So we're going to go back about 15 years.
I think me and our fellow listeners, we're going to learn a lot about you and your college experience. You're going to learn a little bit about me and my college experience. It's going to be awesome, interesting.
Is that the word?
It'll be something.
I graduated high school in 2006. Yes, that was a couple of years ago.
Just a couple.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give my 2 cents about this. So I'm going to be on a soapbox for just a second. So I apologize. And if you don't like soapboxes, like just fast forward about 30 seconds.
I'm ready.
All right. So the high school I went to, and I feel like this was this way for a lot of people my age, maybe plus 5 and 10 years. I don't know. They may still preach this today. Basically, if you didn't go to a 4-year school right out of high school, I feel that you were looked down upon, like you weren't smart or you were dumb or
treated less than.
Yeah, by essentially your high school when you're like, when I graduate, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm not going to get on a soapbox, I guess. So welcome back to all the people that have fast forwarded.
I will say, so you graduated in 2006, I graduated in 2010, and I felt the same way. But specifically, like, so I'm from Wyoming. There's only one university. There's only one 4-year school in Wyoming. The rest is just a garden variety of community colleges and some technical schools. And there was like an added, like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I chose to go to a 2-year community college, and then I transferred to a university not in Wyoming after that, because by the time it was time to move to like finish my bachelor's degree, my husband and I were married, so we like made that decision together. And so we chose not to attend the main university in Wyoming. And the interesting, maybe it's because it's a small, like, minded state. Maybe it's because there's only one university. There's some, like, very, like, heavy loyalty to that school. But we were, like, people were not, they didn't hesitate to shame us for not attending that school. I was just really shocked at, like, how much people were like, I can't believe you're not attending. I'm like, it's not for us. It just wasn't. That was not the place for us.
A couple
and I
things.
just couldn't.
It's none of their business.
Right.
You're probably not paying for it. You as in the person that's quote unquote like advising you, giving you this unsolicited feedback. And at the end of the day, it's none of your business. So I went to a big 4-year school right out of high school. I was older in my class, so I was 18. But then when I got there, it was basically 19. I knew a few people just because of, like, were from my hometown that also went there. And just some other people I knew. That was okay.
Did you live in the dorms? Did you have, like, the traditional, like, dorm freshman year experience?
Yes and no. I was in the dorms, so traditional dorms. We'll just say there was no air conditioning, so just think if you've been to Iowa in August. I don't know how I did it, but anyways, that doesn't matter. I would have slept in my car today. So The part that wasn't traditional was it was a freshman hall, basically. I don't know what you call it.
Freshmen
And
only.
yes. And I had a single. I did not have a roommate my freshman year.
Oh.
It was a good, bad thing. So it was great because I didn't share with anybody. It was bad because it was even harder to meet people because you didn't have that roommate who could have been crazy, you know.
Sure.
You have that.
But it's kind of a built-in like friendship, or at least like social security of like, me and my roommate, we're gonna go do this thing.
Yes. You kind of go through that together, or you find out a lot about yourself. So I didn't spend a lot of time in my dorm for like socializing purposes because I never became friends with any of these people. They really just weren't my people. So fast forward, I basically failed out of that school. Like, let's be honest. We'll go into other details of my life conditions at that time and, you know, those things. But just to get the timeline out. So I became really good friends with somebody that was in one of my, ironically, a math class. And we were also in was it macroeconomics class? Let me tell you.
Who makes friends in a math class? That's weird.
This is back in MySpace days too, so.
Thank goodness.
He was a year older than me, I believe, but he had been touring with Disney on Ice, which is so random.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's an important detail because when summer came, he was renting a house or something like that. So I moved into his house for like 5 seconds, basically. And then we both moved from, it was Northeast Iowa to Des Moines. So summer of 2007. So that's when I actually moved here. And then we rented and like signed a lease, and it was a little more official when we moved to Des Moines. But we were basically had like, it was kind of out of nowhere. It was a lot of like, people were like, okay. So when I was in this town, I was working in a pharmacy. And that's when I had started working in that industry, and that had been completely on accident. So I was working for a large chain at the time. So my job essentially transferred to Des Moines. I started working in a pharmacy in Des Moines in a really bad part of town. And I like the first like 2 weeks, I like cried every day after I left. It was,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's just details. I was kind of just working at different stores in Des Moines because I don't know, nobody had a position. I don't know. So I moved to a different store, and then that was kind of where I like found my people. So these people, a few of them are still really good friends of mine to this day.
That's really special.
It really is. And a couple other people that I've worked with and met through those people, that kind of was like my friend group at the time. So important detail from the aspect of those people, we've all moved jobs together. One person moved from one pharmacy to another, and then like we all kind of follow, which is really funny. Actually, the college I'm attending right now, I enrolled in because, you know, you're supposed to be in school because that's what the world tells you need to do.
Maybe not the world, but American like education culture.
In my head, that's what it was. Whatever.
Right.
Basically, I go there for like a week and I'm like, nope. Nope. I'm out. This is horrible.
At the college you're currently attending?
Yes.
How interesting. Okay.
It was at kind of a satellite campus on a ritzy side of town. And it was just a bunch of like kids that didn't know what they were doing with their lives, but their parents made them go to college.
Yeah.
So then I was just working for probably another year, just full-time in the pharmacy. It was good. I met a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. So in 2008, so a year later, I get this idea. I'm like, I really need to do something with my life because I'm making, well, at the time, I mean, 15 years ago, I was making, I don't know, $10, $11 an hour. So it wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't great.
Right.
So I'm like, I really need to do something. And I'm like thinking, I want to go to school and do something where it's like hands-on learning. I didn't want to go and sit in a classroom predominantly.
Right.
It didn't work before. It's probably not going to work again.
Right.
So Adam makes this bold decision that he is going to go to cosmetology school.
I think that's so cool.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was a cosmetology school, and under that, there's different programs. So the first one the first program I did was not cosmetology, which is traditionally like hair cutting and that kind of stuff. The first one I did was called aesthetics, which is skincare.
Oh, great.
It was so fun. Let me tell you. Our
Yay.
classroom was essentially in a day spa. My skin
Oh my
had never looked better because we were like practicing facials and all these skin treatments on each other like every day.
That's way more fun than cutting hair.
It really was. But the job market for that is like, this is back in the mortgage crisis.
People didn't have spare cash for that
Nobody
kind of
had any money. Nobody was hiring.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled with the school to Montreal, which was really, really, really cool. It's the first time I had ever flown.
I didn't know you did that.
Oh, Montreal is beautiful. It's like going to France, but not traveling over the ocean.
Right. Ugh.
Because you go in a store in Montreal and they're like, bonjour. And I'm like,
oh, thank you.
I'm like, hi. And then they go into English. It's really kind of funny.
Awkward white guy from the Midwest.
Yes. So after I finished that program, I actually never got licensed in that. So I never took the state boards. So then I started the cosmetology program, which is much more time consuming. It's also much more, it's just very, very different. The first like 4 months of it is like classroom, and it's not fun. It's fun in the aspect that you're like cutting hair a little and like doing all this stuff, but you're learning things that you just have to learn.
Sure.
It was really fun. The school, in retrospect, cosmetology schools, for the most part, are for-profit schools.
Sure.
They're really shady, but I'm not going to get into all that. I did get to do some cool things while I was at the school. Like, we had some opportunities where we did makeup for theater productions.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. We also, if you wanted to pay for it, you would get to travel with the school to different places, and you'd learn with all these people that I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
So I got to learn in New York City, San Francisco, Chicago.
That's really cool. Wow.
Right. That was the fun-ish part of it. And you get credit for like school for doing this. So that was like, anyways. But
awesome.
when you're in cosmetology school, you cannot work. Like, you just physically can't unless you, I don't even know, bartend or something, and then you don't sleep. So I wasn't working at that time, so that was really not ideal. I ended up graduating finally, and I think we should take a quick break and pick up with this story. It takes a turn, we'll say.
How exciting. I'm ready.
So we will be right back.
Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. Adam, you left us on a cliffhanger. Let's dive back in.
I was going a little long there, so we're gonna speed this up. So basically, graduated, left there with about $50,000 in student loan debt.
Woo!
Yeah, not great. Cut hair for about 3 months, and it was like, this is the worst. That's a whole nother story that we'll get into another day, but it was not great.
Maybe on our topic of work and work anxiety.
Oh my goodness. I have so many good stories, though.
I think we both do.
I will say I had a really good boss at the salon I worked at. She was really patient with me. She taught me a lot. It was all just kind of things out of both of our control. So
Mm-hmm.
So I quit. I basically go back to working in pharmacy again.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that for several years. Then I go back to school again in 2012. Yeah. And that's when I get into what I do today, which actually pays some of the bills, which is
Yay.
in the technology landscape. So that's what I'm trying to finish right now. But it sucks. I have 6 classes, so if I finish this term successfully, I will have 4. And
Yay.
I know in both of the classes, the 4 classes that are remaining, I have to take 2 of them, and then to take the next 2, I have to pass the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Maybe this podcast will be like my accountability coach.
Ooh.
And I have just all
used-
kinds of student loan debt. Like, it's disgusting. I've been to some other schools, but it doesn't even matter because I didn't do anything at any of them. I mean, I did, and I didn't
Sure.
fail out of them. I just this isn't what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
This traditional schooling is not designed for adults. So I'm like, I just
I
need to
feel
finish
like-
this and then we'll go from there since I'm so
Right.
close to the end. So Lizzie, tell me about your college. Sorry, I was just on a
You're fine.
little tangent. Y'all get used to that.
Yep.
So 2010, tell me your story.
So 2010 I graduate high school and I go to a small community college in Wyoming. What we mentioned earlier in the podcast, I was really frustrated by not only the stigma of you must attend, there's great shame upon you, like in Mulan, shame on you, shame on your family, shame on your cow, shame on everything if you don't go to college.
Can we pause for a
And-
second? Did you say shame on your cow?
Yeah, isn't that's from Mulan?
Oh, okay.
Have you-
Sorry.
Don't you know what I'm talking about?
No, ma'am. I don't really watch animated
We're gonna talk about
movies.
this. You know what? You and I, we're gonna have a talk later, okay?
Yeah.
Every other listener to this podcast knows what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
anyways.
So calm down.
I had to make sure I heard that because that's what I thought I heard. All right. Sorry.
That is what you
Sorry.
heard. Oh my
Please
gosh.
continue.
But specifically, at least something that happened for me, the difference between me graduating in 2010 versus my younger siblings who graduated 4 and 6 years after I did. I grew up half an hour away from community college, but at that time, that college, there was a stigma of if, at least in my age group, if you went to that college, it means no one else wanted you, no one else would accept you. So that was the
Oh,
I
same
don't
here.
know, the low-hanging fruit of college admissions. I don't know how else to put it. So I didn't go to that school. Instead, I decided to go 3 hours away to a different school, which I don't completely regret going to that school because it's where I met my husband and made some really valuable friendships. But the difference between me in 2010 versus my siblings is that college went through a total makeover transformation. The college that it is today was nothing. It was not good when it wasn't seen as a nice school when I was in high school. But by the time my brother and sister both attended that school, it was very nice. And I was always very impressed whenever I'd visit and go see them do college things. I was always very impressed. It turned into a nice school. So anyway, which I think that's very interesting. And the stigma suddenly disappeared, maybe because it became a nicer school. But my siblings, I asked them before and they're no, nobody felt that way. They all, the kids that graduated with them, they had a lot of classmates attend. It seemed this is just my perspective. So I had some interesting experiences at that community college. I'm really grateful that I got to meet my husband, and that's probably the best treasure of attending that school. My major was psychology and I studied under a professor who is he's no longer living, but he was world renowned for his neurotic behavior. Like, he was struggling significantly with mental illness, but because he was tenured, like, I think he'd been at that school almost 40 years by the time he retired. He was so tenured and he was such a fixture, but the quality of education was so very, very, very poor. By the time I transferred to the school that I graduated with my bachelor's degree from, I had to like explain to a few teachers. I said, Google this guy, look him up, and that will explain to you why like there was like some gaps in like things I was supposed to have learned that I didn't know. Some really interesting things about the community college I attended. It was in a very, like, Wyoming, like, you can generalize, like, Wyoming is a very conservative state, but this community, this town that this community college was in, was overwhelmingly even more conservative than I had ever experienced before. And I experienced a lot of, like, my husband and I have experienced this many times where, and I don't think this is a bad place to be, where among our like Christian friends and our tight-knit like Christian community that we're a part of, he and I are kind of like not rebels, but we're the least conservative of our conservative friends. But when we are among our like non-Christian friends or like coworkers or whatever, we feel like these like puritanistic like pilgrims. And so I think it's a healthy place to be. Like, if we're too conservative for some people and too liberal for others, that's fine with me. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. But I felt like I didn't fit in this hyper conservative. The weird thing is like the hyper conservatism of the town really translated to the campus, which was very weird, and that led me to some really like uncomfortable experiences.
Was there any religion background of this school?
Oh yes.
Okay.
So this is not a private like religious school at all, but they're like predominantly at the time, the president of the college was Mormon. And so there was a lot of like very like specific advantages for Mormon kids in Wyoming to attend this school specifically. There was a lot of programming specifically just for them. And so, but this school is not Mormon. It's not religiously affiliated in any way, but at the time there was a Mormon president. But yeah, I just ended up having some really difficult experiences at that school I felt like I didn't fit in. Growing up in like a Christian conservative background, I had never truly experienced like, oh my gosh, I was terrified and confused, and I felt so lost and helpless when it came to like, I didn't understand what was happening when I started to like get really aggressively bullied by like other Christian kids at this school. That was really confusing to me. I was super unprepared for that. I thought like, we all love Jesus. Shouldn't we all be nice to each other? Like, I was so like shocked at like just the like petty hurtfulness that I experienced from different situations, and that like I still have some hurt from that, but I've healed like in like major ways. I've definitely like moved on from a lot of my hurt, but little like 18-year-old me was really shocked and confused. That was really hard and took me several years to unpack all of that. Then we finished so we graduated from the school in December of 2012, and because it was a community college, it was really small. Oh my gosh, our graduation, this is exactly what our graduation was like at this school.
All right, tell me. I'm waiting.
It's December, so it's not the like grand like end of the school year like spring graduation. This is winter. They ordered a cake. There was 2 bowls of mixed nuts, a thing of water.
Where's their orange drink from McDonald's?
Oh my God. No, I think it was just water. I don't recall seeing like a punch or anything. I think the budget for this graduation was approximately $100. So there was I just remember like 2 bowls of mixed nuts on either side of this square like sheet cake. There was probably 10 of us in the room, and it was just like a reception. There was no ceremony, and they didn't ask us to like order caps and gowns or anything. They had 2 like old caps and gowns with the school colors, and we all took turns. Like the photographer from like one of the photo professors or like his like teaching assistant took like pictures of us in our this like shared, like we all took turns sharing the cap and gown. President like made an appearance for 5 minutes. Like he just kind of shook hands and we're like, oh, thanks. Nice to see you. Bye. Merry Christmas.
I bet you felt really important and like Wow.
Oh my
It probably
gosh.
like gave you all the good feels on the inside.
Well, and
Sarcastic.
honestly, like we were ready to just like get the heck out of there. It was a tough semester.
And you said your husband
Because
graduated with you?
yeah, so like
Okay.
actually we have like cute little graduation pictures of us in these borrowed
Okay, well,
caps and
that's a
gowns.
positive. We'll go with
Yeah.
that.
And even one of my bridesmaids for my wedding, she graduated that same day too. Moving out, like that was a tough. So like the other stigma was like this is a 2-year college. We were originally going to transfer to a college in Colorado after our 2 years and not graduate to receive our associate's degrees. We were just going to do the 2 years and finish up the rest of our education at a school in Colorado. That fell through really horribly. I don't really want to unpack it because it's messy and it's fine. So we decided to just do a third, like an extra semester at the community college, graduate, and then we were gonna get married and then kind of just like regroup and figure out like our next college step once we just got through like resolving like getting married and stuff. But that was a really tough semester for us because there was a lot of stigma and like we didn't finish our associate's degree in 2 years. But oh my gosh. So we met that stigma too. And then like we took a year and a half off in between. We got married. We worked to save up as much money as we could. We didn't know what our circumstances were going to be like, which was so dumb to like meet the like people like almost the like criticism of like taking a break in between colleges. It's so stupid, but it's what we did. It's what worked for us. And then we moved to South Dakota to attend a university that we really enjoyed. We had a much better education here. My husband had like wonderful like internship opportunities that led to, he was hired immediately. So graduation was on a Sunday. He started his job like right away Monday morning, which was wonderful. So we were really grateful for those experiences. I guess like it was interesting experiencing college here at this university like as a married couple because it was really nice to have like a built-in like support person. Like we'd come home at the end of the day. We worked really tough jobs, night jobs, so we'd come home about 10 o'clock at night, and it was just kind of nice to like suffer through the experience together. It was nice to have yeah, just like a built-in support system, and we're both really really grateful that we got to go through like that college experience together since we were married. And even though we were non-traditional students, we still had no trouble making friends. Surprisingly, like friendships came a lot easier here, even though like our job situation really sucked, which we can unpack sometime in the future.
I love that you got labeled as non-traditional student. I guess I was a non-traditional student too.
That's what they
It's
call
so
anybody
annoying.
who, I mean, yeah, like that's like they'll call you non-traditional or they'll call you like a non-trad at the colleges. Yeah, I think that's weird, but that is because I worked a lot of college jobs. Like I worked in admissions, I worked in financial aid, like I did a lot of like campus jobs. Oh, I was a tour guide for like 2 years. That was an interesting experience. I have a lot of weird job experiences. But I would say like predominantly like the most like the overarching theme of my college experience, I don't know if this is the same for you, is oh my gosh, just like the anxiety. I was completely unprepared for recognizing, understanding, managing anxiety in college. Did you have any of that experience?
I'm still in school, so
So you're still anxious.
yeah.
Okay, so I have a quick story about, oh, I don't want to say this is like my first experience with anxiety in college. Like I had anxiety like all throughout growing up. I just had no idea. Like I thought as a kid I just felt guilty all the time. I remember sitting down and telling my dad once like I just couldn't, like I was so overwhelmed all the time with like this feeling of guilt, but in hindsight I realized like I was just struggling with anxiety and didn't know how to say it and I didn't know how to recognize it because I wasn't like outwardly like freaking out, but internally I was like very always freaking out.
when you're not okay, but you have to
Right.
portray this I'm okay to the world.
And like what makes me sad is like that I was doing that as a kid, like a middle schooler, high schooler, like that's really sad.
My entire life has been based on this.
So I get to college and it was my first semester, and I attended this school on many music scholarships, but I was not studying music. And this professor that I was dealing with knew that. I was just participating in like the concert style like community band. And so I was just participating. Like it was like a class on my schedule. But because I played the oboe, I sat in the middle, in the front row, immediately in front of the conductor.
I did not know that you played the oboe.
So I played the flute for a long time. And then in high school, the girl that played the oboe graduated. And so the teacher was like, does anybody want to fill that space? And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. But because I'm a 4 on the Enneagram and I deeply desire to do things that are unique, that is like, I recognize at the time, that was my driving force to learn the oboe because it was a unique experience. But so by the time I get to college, I had only been playing the oboe like 3 years. So I was not a college level instrumentalist like many of the other students around me. And this professor was so aggressively hard on me. I was terrified every day. Like he was very hard on me because I didn't make my own reeds. My oboe wasn't a specific brand that is like industry standard. I wasn't like that good. Like I messed up all the time, and he was like on my case. So he was like inappropriately aggressive with like me needing to like log time in the practice rooms, and like he threatened to call my high school instructors and like tell them like what a poor student I was. And like one day there was like a piece of a song I just wasn't getting right, and I felt this was so humiliating. Like he made me play it in front of this like entire group of college students and community members. He made me play this piece over and over again, and I couldn't get it right. And one of my roommate's brother played the trumpet, and he was in the back of the room, and he like after a while he's like, hey man, you got to give her a break. And he like if my roommate's brother hadn't said anything, this guy wouldn't have let up. And this was like, I was so terrified with anxiety. I was throwing up before class. I was just like physically like shaking on the verge of tears. I was so terrified to come to this class. Oh my gosh, I was so terrified. So at the Christmas concert, that was the end of the semester, I never went back to that band, the concert band in the college. Fortunately, I wasn't on an instrumental scholarship, so I got to still keep my music scholarship because I was in the like vocal ensembles. And I like to this day, I have not touched my oboe since. And I spent like $1,200 on this instrument. It's underneath my bed. If anybody wants to buy an oboe, please call me. I've been trying to sell it for forever. Make me a deal.
I was actually going to be a music ed major at the 4-year school.
Holy crap. Mm-hmm. Really?
This exact story didn't happen to me, but is one of the reasons why I did not do it. And I'm glad I didn't do it in the aspect because I had friends. Well, I should say I had a friend that was in the School of Music and had these exact moments. And I'm like, what is this proving? I either wanted to go into like piano, I don't know the words, or like vocal, or I don't even know. That was one of the majors I had when I was at that school.
Wow. I vaguely remember knowing you were in the choir. Yeah. You and your brother, right?
I think so.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was one of many, like, anxiety, like, experiences I had in college. Like, a lot of them came from just, like, the complicated, like, relationships, the bullying. Like, I had many bad roommates. It was so many weird things. But that is, like, one of the things that, like, here's the other problem when it comes to my anxiety. I have learned, like, at least, like, looking back on my past, the things like that experience that have, like, hurt me the most or have been the most traumatic or, like, the highest level of anxieties I've experienced have all been, like, I think everything can boil down to a lack of boundaries. And I never had the courage, or I never felt like I had the permission or the skills or the empowerment to say no, to stand up for myself. I just felt like for years and years and years, I was just a pushover that was just lacked the ability to say no, which is something I talk about on my Instagram account all the time. If you ever want to, like, I call them boundaries pep talks. So if anybody wants a boundaries pep talk, just follow me on Instagram at Lizzie Matson.
I think we're taught some of those things growing up, not directly, and I'm not putting this on our parents, but society in the 90s, that's just how it was.
I almost wonder if it was a parenting technique that was taught too. Like that was a popular like parenting thing.
Like you be
back
respectful, and part of being respectful is
never say no.
yeah. And I just don't want to put that on my parents, because I know I've had trouble with that, and it's not their fault, but it is what it is.
Let me ask you this question. When it comes to anxiety, this is something I started asking people who like come to me for like the boundaries coaching and who want to have these like boundaries focused conversations. I wish I'd asked myself this question in all of like my like bad college experiences, all my bad like work experiences, friendship troubles, bullying, whatever. Ask yourself this question, write it down. I'm going to say it more than once. What does my anxiety in this situation tell me about the boundaries I desire? One more time, everybody. What does my anxiety in this situation tell me about the boundaries I desire? I think if you sit down, write this down, journal about it, revisit it situation by situation. If I can give you any clarity or help or encouragement for whatever journey you're on with anxiety, I think my like personal opinion is that so many of our anxious experiences, the things that trigger our anxiety, boil down to, they all come back to boundaries. So if you can ask yourself the question, what does my anxiety in this situation tell me about the boundaries I desire? I hope that gives you some answers and helps you like start working on like an action plan to start setting some boundaries around those situations. So I hope that's a blessing to everyone. Keep me posted. If anybody wants to send us a DM or just like thoughts on college, anxiety,
Thank you.
The combination of the two, we're definitely going to have future conversations on anxiety.
All right, guys.
So if you have like a specific like topic or theme that ties into anxiety that you maybe want us to unpack sometime, send us a DM. We are always we're always ready to hear from you guys. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out and continues to reach out. For those of you who are supporting us in all kinds of ways, feel free to reach out to us. Our main platform is Instagram, so find us at Cryin' and Dyin', and we will see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks everybody for listening. We greatly appreciate it, and we greatly appreciate your continued support. See you next week. Bye.